What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and yes, we have almost come to the end of this month, meaning it's time for us to check out another episode of Top 10 brand new completely free to play games you can play right now during the month of April. From sci-fi shooters to survival games, action adventure games, first person shooter games, there are tons of games to check out, and of course all of these games are completely free to play. You can go ahead and simply download them from Steam. So let's go ahead and talk all about it, starting with our first game called Darkest Days. This one is a brand new post-apocalyptic zombie survival game that just got released onto the Steam like a couple of days ago. As a typical survival game, you started as a very vulnerable survivor, then you build your own shelter, recruit other survivors, and explore this vast open world. Everything sounds pretty good on the paper, but if you go to the Steam page, you'll see truckload of negative reviews about the game, and I think this is due to a few different reasons. First one being, some of the trailers that they included with the Steam page are kind of misleading. They're more cinematic, action-packed, but when you jump into the game, within few minutes you'll understand this is basically a mobile game ported onto PC. But we have seen tons of mobile game coming to PC during the last couple of years or so, and this game is honestly not as bad as you think. It got pretty decent mechanics, gameplay elements, the open worlds, visuals are pretty decent too. The story is basically revolved around uncovering the secret of this zombie virus. Storyline does have some potential, but it lacks depth and can be very predictable. And of course, being a mobile game, there will be some monetization options, pay to win elements. It also included premium currency, which unlocks some premium high tier rewards, so it can be a pain, especially if you're playing online. Otherwise, it's a pretty decent game to check out, and it's completely free to download on Steam. You guys know I don't really like to include prologues and demo versions in our list unless it's something really cool, and this month we got Sword Commander Prologue. I think it's really awesome but a little bit rough around the edges. So it's a free tactical shooter where you play as a part of an elite SWAT team, kind of similar to games like Rainbow Six Siege or Ready or Not, but more like a budget, less polished version of that game. You can basically team up with your friends or other players and customize your gear, plan out missions, which is super fun when the teamwork actually clicks. So this one is a very limited demo version, so there is only like a couple of missions and few game modes, and there's not much of a storyline or anything. It's all about the missions. It's a very slow paced tactical shooter, so you simply can't just run around and shoot people. But at the current state, I would say the game feels a little bit janky, buggy, clunky animation, stuff like that. But if you want to experience something like Ready or Not but you don't want to spend money, it's a pretty cool freebie to check out. So download, give it a try, and definitely give your feedback to the developers. Moving on to another brand new game, next up we got Clockwork Sword. So this game is actually an isometric hack and slash style of a game where you battle through the museum overrun by these rough automatas. It looks very simple and easy at first, but the definite standout feature of this game is the weapon customization. You can literally modify your weapon's form, elemental charge, gear using different parts from defeating enemies. And this will easily allow you to diverse your combat style, and also you can switch between two weapons in mid-fight. And if you properly time these switches, it fills a pressure gauge which unleash a powerful special attack. And the game got that steampunky aesthetic with a mechanical museum setting, and I have to say the combat feel very much satisfying. So should you check out the game? Absolutely. It's free to play and currently in early access, and plan to add more content very soon. So if you're into action game with deep customization, I think it's definitely worth giving it a shot. Moving on to a brand new sci-fi survival game just dropped on Steam called Dicetera, and I think you guys gonna like this one. So this is a free-to-play survival first-person shooter with crafting, base building, and both PvE and PvP modes. The basic story is simple. The Earth has gone fully sci-fi apocalypse, and humanity is literally chilling on the satellite called Orbit. And somehow you sent back to the Earth to scavenge a mineral called Terrasite, and this is where your survival journey begins. So if you have played any other games like Ark or Rust, you feel right at home. The gunplay is pretty decent. It's not the best, not the worst. Crafting system is also pretty solid. Base building is very basic and straightforward. It's pretty easy to understand and jump into even if you're a beginner at survival games. If you don't want to play PvP with other players, there's a completely single player mode also available, so you can enjoy the game at your own pace. But at the moment the player base is very small, so finding active servers can be a challenge. Other than some of the technical issues, I think the game is pretty solid, and it is free to play. You can try out without spending a dime. Next up we got Call of Clans, a brand new turn-based strategy card game set in a magical world. In this game you build deck with minions and skill cards and challenge opponents in world of swords and magic. There is a co-op dungeon mode where you can team up with other players to take more tougher challenges. Other than that, there's not much of a story or narrative. The game is pretty much focused on the gameplay. I personally not a big fan of strategy games like this, but if you're into strategy games with a fantasy twist, Call of Clans might be worth looking at. It's pretty easy to get into without buried in complicated systems, so definitely give it a try if you're a fan of this style of games. Now we are moving on to a brand new completely free horror game called Welcome to Dusttown. So this one is a 1 to 4 player co-op horror game where you and your friends play as field scientists exploring this creepy maze-like cornfield to collect sample for a mysterious corporation. And being a horror game, the atmosphere is super eerie, dark, kind of like a old school horror vibes with more like a desaturated visual style. And this cornfield filled with jump scares, especially these little creepy little figures lurking around. And also there's a big monster. There's not much of a story, it's more like a backdrop where you're working for this shady company. As you collect samples, you will uncover the true motives behind. It's honestly a pretty fun horror game to play right now. Even if you don't have friends, you can play the game totally free, single player as well, which is a big bonus. And of course, being an early access style, there are some bugs, glitches, lack of tutorials like that, but it got some pretty spooky atmosphere, fun co-op mechanics. If you're into that, definitely worth give it a shot. Alright, moving on to a very popular brand new open world RPG style of a game, and that is Infinity Nikki. Previously this game was only available on Epic Games Store for a few months now, and it just dropped on Steam today. So it's a cozy open world adventure filled with vast landscapes, mystical puzzles and unexpected platforming challenges, and you play as Nikki exploring this magical world called Mirrorland with your sassy catty companion. And throughout your journey you have to collect different outfits which grant you different powers like gliding, shrinking and purifying enemies. It's very colorful, very adorable. The narrative is a quirky mix of light-hearted and surprisingly deep. The game is free to play and it got that cute anime art style. It may not be for everyone, but if you're into open world exploration, fashion / puzzle, kind of a relaxing gaming experience, Infinite Nikki is definitely worth taking a look. Moving on to another brand new multiplayer game that just dropped on Steam called Tidal Shock Off the Hook. So imagine a 12-player PvP shooter but underwater with zero gravity. You basically zip around using these high-speed torpedoes, outmaneuvering your opponents with 360-degree tactics. The game just launched its 1.2 update on Steam after a solid stint in early access, and they basically overhauled the game with new mods, maps, achievements, and even a matchmaking rating system. So at the moment there are 4 different game modes: Reactor Rush, Control, Point-to-point and Deathmatch. It's not the most easiest game to get into, especially with the movement feel a bit janky at first, but once you get the hang of it, you're definitely going to enjoy this one, especially when you're mastering these torpedo mechanics. It's a very cool and a unique shooter, something we haven't really had on the free-to-play market, but unfortunately right now there's not a lot of people know about the game or playing the game right now, so finding matches online can be a challenge. But the game is totally free to play with no pay-to-win mechanics, and the community seems to be very positive about the game. So if you're looking for a PvP shooter with a unique taste, this is an awesome game to check out right now. Moving on to an extremely popular game that just dropped on Steam today, and that is Wuthering Waves. There's no doubt this is one of the most popular games among all the platforms. This was previously available on Epic Games Store, but a lot of people will agree it's glad to see the game on Steam. So this one is a story-rich open-world action RPG with a very unique anime art style and somewhat controversial gacha mechanics. In terms of gameplay, it's very similar to a games like Genshin Impact. The combat is fast-paced and combo-heavy, with each character bringing unique skills and playstyles, and swapping between them in the mid-fight, triggering these flashy tag team moves, keeping the battles more dynamic and engaging. There is also a very strong narrative in the game with a dense cast of characters, but I can understand this style of games may not be for everyone. And yes, it is a gacha game, and this style of games are getting more popular nowadays, basically meaning you're pulling new characters and weapons using this in-game currency, so you can either farm them or just spend your real money to buy this stuff. But honestly, it's a pretty cool action RPG with a stylish combat and a massive open world to explore, and we're all glad to see the game finally on Steam. Alright, finally we are moving on to a very exciting looking sci-fi shooter that released earlier this month, and that is Steel Hunters. So this is a free-to-play PvP/PvE mech shooter where you team up with your buddies to make a rival squad while battling AI enemies. It's set in a futuristic gritty world with tons of customization to your mechs. It is not a battle royale game, but it's definitely bringing that intensity with environmental destruction and absolutely stunning visuals. And you can basically control and customize these huge war machines called Hunters, and each one has its own role like tanking, supporting and dishing out damage. It's definitely a cool free-to-play game to jump into, especially if you are a fan of games like Titanfall, but of course being a free-to-play title you can expect it to have some high microtransactions, monetization and stuff like that. But other than that, it's a solid game. Jump in and enjoy, and let me know down below what you think. Well, there you have it, guys. 10 of the best, completely free, brand new games you should absolutely play during the month of April. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned to the channel as we cover pretty much all things related to free-to-play games. I'll catch you guys soon in the next one. Stay safe.